California is among the most active regions in the United States for earthquakes, and one of the regions that is overdue in some spots for a big earthquake. So when we get some new information, I like to look at it and share it with you guys and make sure everybody's in the know with what they're saying in terms of new findings. Sometimes it's just about looking at the history along with recent activity and seeing that some areas are indeed overdue. Now, if you look at the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, that was the last quake with a greater than magnitude 7 to occur on the whole San Andreas fault line. Now, if you extend that and you run down to the central southern area of the San Andreas fault, they say that that area has not slipped since 1857. And the southernmost segment has not ruptured since 1680. They're saying may not have ruptured since 1680. That's their best guess right now. So you also have the Hayward Fault in the East Bay region that has not generated a major earthquake since 1868. Any one of these connecting faults could add to or trigger the big one. Now, in other videos, I've talked about down here in the Salton Sea where this plate or this fault seems to run down through here and break apart and then connect back. We've seen some swarming there, but they're saying in terms of big earthquakes that it's been some time since a massive one has hit here and even longer the further south you go. So those regions are the areas they're concentrating on. And, you know, what concerns me is if it does hit in one of these areas, it's going to unzip like we've seen in some of the simulations before, where it's felt and grows in magnitude as it starts to make its way this way up through the valley. And can cause a lot of destruction. The good thing about all of this is that California has not been sleeping in a sense. They've been doing as much as they can, for the most part, staying on top of this. In terms of other countries out there and the technology that we have to prepare for something like this, they have a way greater advantage than some other countries. But most individuals that live within California have felt maybe small rumblings, but they stayed here. In terms of a big one, there's been a drought. And they say that, and you know, you can look at the earthquake map, and it's among the most active in the United States, always swarming, just like the islands down here. You can also see some recent activity right outside of Yellowstone. And the most recent 7.9, I think it was, that hit right up here. You can see we still have swarming going on. This runs parallel. This runs right off from this. Keep going straight on up that line. You're going to run into that region. Now, take a look here. Into Southern California. We also had the Gulf of California quake that hit down here, 6.5. And another thing you have to keep in mind here is that California's population has grown more than 20-fold since that 1906 earthquake, and it's currently close to 40 million people in this vicinity. For the general public, preparations include participating in the drills that we've talked about, like the Great Shakeout that they've been holding since 2008, but they say that no California earthquake since the 1933 Long Beach event, which was a 6.4, has killed more than 100 people. Quakes in 1971, 1989, 94, and 2014 each caused more than $1 billion in property damage, but the fatalities in each event were remarkably dozens or less. And they're saying that because of procedures, preparation, and everything else, we've been able to dodge these bullets, but a massive one that just unzips through here is inevitable at some point. And they're saying that further south, this is where it seems a majority of that energy is pinned up and where you should expect to see the big one emanating from. It doesn't mean that you can't see any other activity along this line between now and then. And I think it's been stated that, medium quakes, if they were to let loose in the region and everything died down, they would rather see that, knowing that there's been a release of energy with minimal damage, rather than nothing at all continue for longer and longer and longer, because it always leads to pinned up energy. And this area seems to be the key. But I'm going to leave a link with a lot more info here, a lot more to read into in terms of the history, so you can get familiar with it. And they talk about the damage of the San Francisco quake as well, and in terms of the fires that broke loose, and because of the highway damage and all this other stuff, that a majority of the city burned down. And that is what caused a lot of destruction, not just the quake itself, but what it sparked. But I'll leave a link. It's been Dabu7.